No one was doing it in the UK, so I was like, let's go.
Welcome to Aha Moments podcast with me, Kobi Omenaka. My guest this week is Hannah Witton.
There was definitely a time when I was like, I just want to blow up, you know? Like, when's my time going to happen? And it never did.
I've known Hannah from before she even knew what Facebook was, through to being the stellar, interstellar star and coach creators on all the different platforms and teaching people how to be a creator. It was great to speak to Hannah. It's been a long time in the making. And it's been great to see her career progress in the way it has done.
So I just feel like this book has helped people, and it doesn't matter how I feel about it now.
It was great to ask a lot of questions that will hopefully resonate with you guys, and hopefully some of the answers will be able to put you on the next step on your trajectory to becoming a more independent, self-supporting creator. Hannah, thank you so much for joining me on my podcast. How are you doing? It's been a long time, and I've known you for a long while. So
I know.
This is a bit of a catch-up.
You've known me since I was 13. I was a child, but I'm doing good. It's so lovely to see your face again.
I know, yeah. So for that context, it's really strange because we met doing capoeira, and 90% of the people, 99% of the people do capoeira like at university, like in the 20s kind of thing. And so when I first met you, I was like, oh, so hey, what course you on? What are you doing? And you're like, I remember this clearly. You were like, I'm 13. I was like, okay, fine.
Oh my God, I was probably so obnoxious. Oh my God. I remember hearing about Facebook through you lot for the first time.
Oh, really?
But I was still a teenager. So I was like, oh, me and all my friends are on MySpace and Bebo. And all of you guys were like, oh, have you heard of Facebook? And I was like, yeah, because you're all uni students.
Facebook was like, that's catalyzed my career basically when Facebook came out, and I was like, oh, this is interesting, maybe I should do a master's in this stuff, and that's generally what happened. So wow. But yeah, well, we met that back when you were 13, and then I remember talking to you about, because that was the time when Doctor Who restarted with like Christopher Eccleston. I remember us talking.
Oh my God, yeah.
I remember me and you talking about it quite a lot. I was like, how do you even know who Doctor Who is? But it was just like, it was really cool to speak to someone about, because it was a really big thing in my childhood. My doctor being Sylvester McCoy, back in aging myself really badly there. Yeah,
I've never watched any of the older Doctor Who, but Christopher Eccleston, David Tennant, and Matt Smith. Yeah, well, like when I was really, really into it.
I feel I really want to watch all the previous ones. I really want to watch Cutie Gatwa, but I feel I need to, because I kind of tapped out halfway through Matt Smith, not because I was getting bored of it, but just because lots more TV started happening and it became really, really tough. And what I've seen, the clips I've seen of Cutie Gatwa look amazing. And I think he's amazing in everything I've seen him in.
I love him in Sex Education. I went to see The Importance of Being Earnest at the National Theatre, which she's in as well. Incredible. And I watched his Doctor Who Christmas special, and then I intended to get back into it. And then I just...
Life happens.
Just like, there's the endless list of TV shows.
So what has that life been? Because lost thing happened to me. I left to go to Norway for a few years, and then you would have gone off to university, and then London, and then just we bumped into each other just randomly in places. So what happened when you went to university? And
what happened?
Because also I want to touch about your steps into becoming a creator on YouTube. So because that's really interesting to me.
Let's get into it. And actually, it's really funny having this conversation with you and mentioning the capoeira, because I joke about how like capoeira was like my main hobby when I was like a teenager, like between 13 and 18. Yeah. And then it was like on my gap year between finishing my A-levels and going to university, which is when I like discovered YouTube and started like watching all of these other YouTubers. And it's also when I started to fall out of the habit of going to capoeira, because I was like living in Paris and I was moving around and everything. And so I joke about the fact that like my YouTube hobby replaced capoeira as like my main hobby.
These things happen.
And then obviously my back got screwed over, because I went from like my main hobby being like a physical activity to then being hunched over my laptop all of the time. So now my back. So I got really into watching lots of YouTube, and then was like, I want to do this. Like, these people seem really cool. How do I infiltrate the friend group, you know? And they were all friends with each other because they all made videos. I was like, well, obviously I have to make my own videos. So I started doing that very much as a hobby, and just kind of continued through university. And it kind of became a part-time job by the time I graduated.
Oh, wow.
I thought, fuck it, let's do this, and moved to London. And yeah, but this was like, I started in 2011 and graduated in 2018. So it was really quite early in the creator influencer
because
space.
Before then you just kind of, you know, you made a video and threw up and chucked up on YouTube. I mean, I've got loads of videos on YouTube which are just a lot of them capoeira ones, where
my first ever video I uploaded was a capoeira one.
There you go.
But it's gone now.
It's
gone now, but it was me. Yeah, it was me at one of my batizados. Like, I don't know.
Wow. But then you had to have like,
I
remember there's kind of a bit of a barrier to entry, because I had like a decent like mini DV camera, and then had to like convert the tape into a digital thing and then like edit it on my computer and then upload it. Whereas now, I mean, I'm sure you get the first questions like, what camera should I use? And the typical response I see from people is like, just use your phone until you get like annoyed with it and want something different. But when you know what that difference is, just start using phone, because the phone camera is better than the webcam on any laptop, and it's better than what we had like 10 years ago. And so whatever you're doing on the phone, just get on with it, right?
Yeah, I had like a digital camcorder thing. That was the first one I bought, but the first one I actually used was like a digital camera that I had for taking photos, you know, back in the day when you'd like go on a night out and then the next morning you would upload a Facebook album of 60 photos from last night. But this digital photo camera that I had also had video capability. Yeah. And so I like set it up to film myself, but it had no viewfinder for me to like actually see what I was doing. So yeah, you just like, you hope for the best. You're like, the way I'm in frame.
Now you say that, the first kind of video I edited together was one of those. So it was like a Sony DSC camera. I had like 64 megabytes. Like
and they were so tiny in memory.
And I found it recently because I made a short video with my friends when we went snowboarding, and I put it to like an Arctic Monkeys tune, and that was the first thing I edited on my like properly stitched together to time it with music. So that's just like wow, that's.
I still have my first like digital camcorder thing. I still have it. It's like a round.
What do you do with it? Just look at it and go, oh, those days.
It's just I just like actually have it next to my current camera, and it's kind of like my work like equipment shrine.
Fair play. You need to have that like put it in a plastic box and make sure it's there for everyone to see as soon as they enter your house. This is where it started. I remember I didn't watch that many videos on YouTube of just generally of yours, but just generally people. But I remember one being when you like, I think you came out as a YouTuber, and you're like, okay, guys, I think it's when you're at university.
Telling my uni housemates that I was a YouTuber, which was so cringy. I don't even think that video is public anymore. But yeah, I was like, I need to kind of tell these people that I live with that I film myself. And I was like, well, obviously I'll make a video about that.
This content. I was speaking to quite a well-known comedian, Marcus Bridgestock, and he was talking about how comedians nowadays are becoming more popular on YouTube, on like Instagram and things like that. And he said he was kind of annoyed at the word content, but also saying, but that's also, but it's self-reflected, saying that's what we did was we went on stage and we went on TV, and that was the content. It's just a different context to content. It's going to be confusing what I'm saying.
I feel like the word content like just means nothing to me.
And amorphous, like just doing stuff. It's just your life is content.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, then I'll get all existential. Like, what am I even doing?
So tell us about the early stages of that YouTuber journey, and did you become one of the cool kids? Did you make friends with them?
I feel like I made friends with some cool kids, but I never like felt like one of the cool kids.
Right. Imposter syndrome.
Myself, maybe. But yeah, it was such a interesting time, because I feel like, so this was like in the early 2010s, and the YouTube, especially like the YouTube UK community, felt like it was one thing. And so you could kind of get to know everybody, and you would go to parties or events and everyone that you knew were there, or then you would meet new people, but they would also be part of the huge community. And it was just quite exhilarating, honestly. Like, it was really intense and fun and exciting. And yeah, and now because the creator industry has just like completely exploded, especially since the pandemic, like in the last 5 years. Yeah. And the groups are so much more fractured. Like now, and for for good, I think, because it just allows for a lot more like diversity of voices and types of content. And like so many people are able to have flexible work because they've been able to make like content creation their job. But it does mean that you're like, it feels impossible to keep up with this industry. You're like, who's who? There's this like tiny niche of people doing this thing you've never heard of, but they're all insanely successful and have their like own little community. It's wild.
Yeah. So what I found is, especially with Instagram, well, what happened was Instagram were like, fuck you, Snapchat, we're going to take your stories. And then,
oh my God, yeah.
And then the Reels came along, and then TikTok came, TikTok came along, and then the Reels came along. And what now is happening is that if you've got a YouTube channel, if you've got an Instagram channel, then you've also got a TikTok channel, and depending on, broadly you're sharing the same thing. So, and then you probably have a YouTube channel. So it all kind of, there's not just a YouTube, like you say, it's just content creator, and people will flow in and out of different people's videos. And I find that kind of fascinating how I see like one person over there and there's one person over there, and suddenly they're in the same video, and it's like, of course, this is how cross collaboration works. This is how like, super groups, bands like the Traveling Wilburys, you could say, people like George Harrison and Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan wasn't in Traveling Wilburys. I can't remember anyone else in the Traveling Wilburys.
I think collaborations changed so much over the years as well, like the way that people collaborate. I think there was a real, like, especially with YouTube, there was a real heyday of it where you'd be like, let's collab, and you would make 2 videos, one for each of your channels. Whereas that doesn't work so much, I think, in the current landscape, because, and actually a friend of mine said this to me recently, which is that collaboration in the way that we were doing it in the 2010s doesn't work anymore, because platforms are more like niche based rather than audience based. So it's not about just like collaborating with your mate. It's like, okay, who makes similar content to me, or who's in a niche that is like,
like a very close,
closely related, where there could be like a really interesting crossover, and what is the value for the audience there, rather than, I mean, I'm very much still feel like I've come back into my era of like, I just want to make videos with my friends, but it's not the most, I don't like, that's fun for me, and I can occasionally do that for me, but it's not like a successful, I wouldn't recommend it as like a successful YouTube strategy in 2025.
So do you call yourself a creator? Because I think you kind of stepped away quite publicly from what you were doing in the main.
So I still call myself a creator because I still do like content creation on YouTube and Instagram and things, but more in the like lifestyle space. Whereas previously I was a sex and relationships educator.
Yes,
and
we need to get to that.
My whole channel was like sex ed related, and I had a whole sex ed podcast as well called Doing It, that little neon sign. So like another relic from, and I stopped doing all of that at the end of 2023, which was a really hard decision to make, but ultimately like a good thing. But I couldn't step away from content creation in like social media completely, because I still really love it. And I think the reason why I got into it in the first place was for this desire for community and connection. And so whilst I took a path down the sex ed route, because that was something that I was really passionate about, and I did that for 10, 12 years, and now I've kind of stripped it back a bit, and I'm back at doing the lifestyle stuff and doing like some different things, but still the purpose is community and connection.
So can you talk us through the step into the sex ed side of things? Because I think when you first started, it was broadly comedic, and then it became more down the, you went down that was your kind of, your found niche, I guess.
Yeah. So that happened within a year of me starting YouTube. What happened was two things happened. I was really into learning about sex education. I had found like some sex ed videos from a US creator and was like, oh my God, I didn't know this. Why was I not taught this? Like, and had my awakening of like, what the fuck? And started to get really passionate about it and learning more about it. And also I was very like comfortable talking about it. And so that was happening. And at the same time, I had been uploading on YouTube, and, back in 2011, it was, I don't even know if you call it a genre, but it was like vlogs or like like a personality based channel that was just like a big mishmash of things.
Yeah.
And I could see from my analytics, whilst I had a very small audience, I could see that they were mostly young women. And so I had my moment of like, oh, I guess this was my first aha moment. I was like, oh, I have an audience here and I would like to be able to like give back to them, to do some good and use my platform and the influence, if you will, even though that word was definitely not being like thrown around at that time. Yeah, use that for good. And my passions and my interest and my knowledge and my confidence in terms of like being able to talk about sex education.
Yeah.
So I went and did that.
And did you notice
the audacity of a 19-year-old? Sometimes I'm just like, look back, especially because obviously over the 12 years of doing that, I became more qualified and learned loads like during that. And I look back on 19-year-old me and I'm like, she knew nothing, but yet she had the courage and the confidence just to be like, I know some stuff and I want to talk about it.
But I think that's legitimate though, right? Because when, like, speaking about people, do you know Ali Abdaal? So one of the things I like about him as a YouTuber is the way he talks about, don't worry about being the expert for everyone. Just think about people, a couple of steps ahead of you. And and so you're people like a couple of steps behind you, you're a couple of steps ahead of them, and make the content for them and make it relevant.
Exactly.
And
because I didn't found that theory,
but
that was 100% what I was doing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's completely valid because, like, sometimes I look at like guitar tutorials on YouTube, for example, and people are just like, "Oh, this is an easy thing." I'm like, "Is it? Though? Is
sometimes
easy?
The people who are the experts who are really good at it don't know how to teach it to somebody who is like
way further down. Absolutely,
way further down. Yeah.
So one idea I've had for a channel would be because I'm doing my guitar grades at the moment, studying for grade 5. I'm like, okay, maybe if I had the time, I should go back and say, this is how I learned for grade 1, this is how I learned for grade 2, and through to whatever.
But you have to do it quickly before you forget. Because once you're like too good, then you'll be like, how did I do grade 1?
And how can I impart my knowledge to the people who are most acceptable to it? And I think, obviously, because it's my idea, I think there's a merit to that. But I think what you're doing there is like you were explaining to people who most needed it. And when we talk about the TV show like Sex Education, and also TV shows like recently Adolescence, where it's like show these to the people who need to see it most of the time, and don't worry about being too much of an expert, because I think there's validity in just showing that recently learned knowledge and being able to teach people more at their level without talking down to them.
Yeah, and that's definitely the approach that I took. It was very much like, oh, I just learned this thing and I find it so interesting, I just want to share it with the group.
This is it. This is what happens. This is conversations. This is how it happens in life. This is how stories like proliferate. Hannah's learned a thing. Let's speak to Hannah so she can tell us more. Yeah,
exactly. And back when I started as well, and this is something that I don't think I truly appreciated until I stopped doing the sex ed work, just from friends and like peers in the space of like when I announced that I was leaving, like the outpour from some of my peers who were also like in the sex ed space was just kind of like, wow, you were really like a pioneer. And like, I feel weird saying that about myself, but I'm like, other people have said this to me.
It's valid.
2011, I was obviously inspired by someone who was doing it in the US, but no one was doing it in the UK. So I was like, let's go.
Yeah.
And I was making YouTube videos. Now there are a lot of people making like sex and relationships based content, but it is primarily on like Instagram and TikTok. And you still don't see much long form YouTube content that is about it, especially still out of the UK. There is a bit more in the US. So yeah, it's still quite interesting to have been in that space and to have been someone who kind of was one of the first.
Yeah. And that led to doing a podcast, doing it, which I realize now is probably the last time I saw you was in the London Podcast Festival, like in the green room.
Yeah.
As you were prepping to go on stage. And I was like, hey, Hannah, how's it going? And you were like, Kobi, just like ready to go on stage. Just leave me alone for a second. I just need to like...
I'm in the zone.
Yeah.
I was very nervous. I remember that being very nervous. I think it was like one of the first ones, because like when you're interviewing people remotely, you can glance at your notes, you can glance at your questions, and it's like you it doesn't really matter so much about the conversation stalling because it's going to be edited. But when there are people watching it live,
you can see their eyes
so prepared.
looking at you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So doing it, was that the name of one of your books as well?
Yeah, my first book doing it, and then the podcast came after. Yeah.
So please do explain about how the book came about.
Oh, the book came about in a very typical influencer book kind of way, I guess, which was that a publisher reached out to me.
Yeah, okay.
And we're like, we'd love you to write a book. And I was like, oh, wow, really? Okay. And and then I got a literary agent from there. Yeah, lots of conversations happened, basically. And then was like, okay, yes, I can do this. Yeah, and so it's a YA, it's a young adult, like sex and relationships education book with lots of information, advice, some anecdotes from me, and then it also has some like guest writers in it as well, like talking about some of their experiences and insights. Yeah,
and I do like this collaborative book approach as well, because I think you contributed to one of Scarlett Curtis's books, didn't you?
Yeah, the mental health one.
Yeah, it's Not Okay to Feel Blue and Other Lies.
Yes, that's the one. Yeah,
and I like that as a concept for like we said, collaborative book. So it's good to see more. It's good to see those kind of outputs there, and each chapter being different and from different perspective, and also but around this kind of unifying theme, which I think is like always inspiring. So maybe one chapter doesn't resonate with you, but another one will do, and it's really cool just to see that.
Yeah, and like the book came out like 8 years ago now. No, 8 years ago. And so I feel like as time has passed, and this is like anything that you make, you're like, oh, I would do it so differently now, or like, oh, I didn't have like a full grasp of this thing, and I would have explained it slightly differently, or would have included X, Y, Z. Anyway, so there's always constantly that like reflective self-criticism.
Yeah.
But I have to always be like, no, this book, like I have had lovely like feedback from people who have read the book, and so I just have to be like, this book has helped people, and it doesn't matter how I feel about it now.
So with the creator side of things, I guess I'm channeling your parents or anyone's parents. It's like, how do you make money from this, and how did it sustain you? Did you just go to eating cabbage for like a few years, or was it like, actually this is good income?
Yeah, so I was doing it part-time for a while before I was able to go full-time with it. But I'm always happy to talk like creator revenue streams and like demystify it a bit. But essentially for me, the big ones are brand deals. So like doing sponsored content, whether that is on YouTube or Instagram, those are kind of like the main platforms that I do sponsored content on. And then YouTube AdSense. YouTube is still by far the best out of all of the platforms to pay creators for the content that they put on.
You're trying not to say the C word too much now, are we?
Google AdSense. It was the first, and it still reigns supreme in terms of creator compensation.
Right.
And that's probably down to the long form content, because the shorts compensation is but also I would still rate it higher than like TikTok, and also obviously Instagram Meta pay fuck all. So there's that. But yeah, so Google AdSense, and then for me another big chunk of the pie is Patreon. So that like direct fan funded membership, and I have had a Patreon for over 10 years now. Like I joined the platform a year after Patreon started. So very early on that platform. Obviously, there are loads of other platforms now that are doing this kind of like fan-funded subscription membership model, but I'm firmly in the Patreon ecosystem at this point. But yeah, that's a huge part of my income as well.
Well, you got people like Apple and Spotify like doing their subscription models for the podcast side of things as well. So it's they're saying, the people are making money over there. Let's take some of that money that they've earned.
Yeah. The way that I've heard Jack Conte talk about it, who's this founder and CEO of Patreon, he said that not only are all of these platforms, so like YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, like Substack, like, all of these platforms that you said, Apple and Spotify as well, or not only are they competing for consumers' attention because they just want to keep people on their platforms, they're also now all competing with each other of like, who can be the best at paying creators, because they know that that's what's going to keep creators loyal to
the platforms.
Their platforms. Yeah.
That's such an interesting.
Like Instagram have memberships, TikTok has memberships. Yeah, obviously the Substack model has been really successful for lots of writers and authors. Yeah, and then the podcasting platforms as well are doing it too.
And you feel this? Do you know where you're going to be in the next kind of 5 years creating? Are you just happy to see what happens?
Yeah, I feel like I've gone through the phases of like the first 5 years I was in it, I was happy to see what happened, and then the next 5 years was like, oh, let's maybe try and be a bit more strategic now. And then I've had this huge shift since becoming a parent and then stopping the sex ed stuff, where I feel like I'm at the beginning again of like, let's just see what happens again. And then maybe like just need a break from the strategy, and then maybe I'll start being a bit more strategic again.
Well, I think you'll have people who are just following you because they're there for the personality, and they'll follow you through whatever period of life you're going through. And people just grow differently and evolve differently. And like we make Twiggy's podcast, for example, and it's amazing seeing the people who connect with her, like as she's gone through different phases, and being at her documentary launch off the back of the podcast. And it's fascinating the people who were there, who were like really, really who were fans of hers since they were 16 as well, and Twiggy's there onto the scene, and like kind of like followed her through her whole journey. So I think there's definitely lots of a basis and a platform for people like yourself to, as long as you who you are and you're cool and chilled and not a knobhead, then I think people will be keen to follow you and support you as much as you want it to happen, basically.
Yeah, try to not be a knob. But yeah, Aki in the this like had my big kind of growth. And even though like a lot of my growth has been very like slow and steady, which is nice and feels a lot more like sustainable, even though there was definitely a time when I was like, I just want to blow up, like when's my time going to happen? And it never did. But actually looking back, I'm like, oh, actually quite grateful. I don't know if I would have handled that very well, but yeah, I think because of the timings of when I started and having been doing it for so long and weathered many a storm of platform changes, algorithm changes, and also like personal life changes, I feel like a lot of people are just like, yeah, we're along for the ride. Like people have grown up with my content and grown up with me as well as their lives have changed as well. And so, yeah, it does feel like I've really got a very lovely community.
Yeah. I love that. I do love that word of recent years community and the connection side of things. And are you looking to kind of, I don't know if YouTube will hear this, but like move people away to a platform where it's just like yourself, like School or Circle, where you can engage with people more directly and not be at the whimsy of algorithmic changes? So
my Patreon kind of functions in that way because Patreon isn't like algorithmically curated. It's very much like people sign up and people pay a membership, and we use Discord where we chat, and that's integrated with Patreon. And so that's kind of like already happening, but you still need to be putting content and making stuff on the other platforms.
You need the funnel
for the discoverability, but also like those people who are paying a subscription are like funding that work as well. So if you're like, I'm going to stop entirely, then it depends on like your relationship with your audience. Like you could try and do that where you're like, I'm not going to post anything on these platforms and just like post it all here. But yeah, I mean, less people would see it. So yeah, the top of your funnel would be gone.
Yeah, I get that 100%. I've started, so today marks the 100th day of posting in a row on LinkedIn.
Oh, wow.
And
how is LinkedIn? This is the one platform I'm like, I should be doing this.
Well, I'm super enjoying it. And am I starting to call myself a LinkedIn creator? I guess I am. But I've seen it in the podcast world where, just to like tie in with what you're saying about the revenue streams, a lot when I speak to people about podcasting, the most obvious revenue stream to people is the adverts, the ads and the kind of sponsorship. And I'm like, that's great, but also you need to have a fuck ton of listeners to make that something that's going to work in the first place and sustainable. And we've got adverts on some of our podcasts, but they don't get that many listens. So, we'll get like £5 a month from them. It's like, okay, well, thank you very much. It's better than nothing, but also I'm not going to rely on that at all. But where I have got some traction is like Patreon. People like, really love what you do. Here's some money keep doing it, please. It's the where I've made the biggest inroads is as a kind of a subject matter expert. And when I talk about marketing, and then people come to me and say, hey, to talk about marketing on a podcast, can you help us do some marketing? And we'll pay you for that stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's like a means to an end.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of thing.
And then the last thing is like, oh, so you know how to podcast. Can you help us do a podcast? And so people come for like fillery things. And just because my head's above the parapet more than people come and say, hey, I see you talk about things. I see you talking on podcasts.
Yeah.
Can you help us do X, Y, Z? Because that's what you talk about.
Yeah. The podcast is the ad.
Yeah. We're recording one long ad now.
Right. But I mean, there is some truth in that. Because you're more in the podcast world than I am. And I mean, I've had 2 podcasts in my day, but I don't currently have one. But in my experience, unless you are like one of the big ones, unless you are raking in like minimum 100K downloads a month, the only way you're funding that podcast is through paid membership. Otherwise, it does not make
doesn't compute
money.
Yeah.
Or you have to think of it in another way, which is like, this is an investment. This podcast itself is going to be, not making any money and actually be in the negative. But ultimately, the work that comes from and the opportunities that come from having the podcast is actually what the goal is.
Couldn't put it better myself. That's exactly what I'm saying there.
Yeah.
And before we get to the aha moment question, just want to touch back on what you said about how you feel you kind of caught the wave at the right time. Because speaking as a LinkedIn creator, you see a lot of people on the platform have gone like, hey, I've grown a bajillion in like 3 days. This is how I did it. And when you look back at it, they've managed to catch the wave, not intentionally, but they've just been there at the right place at the right time and then monopolized on it. Like 3 years ago when LinkedIn changed some algorithms and really helped people to platform themselves. And then they're selling themselves at the back of, this is what I did, you can do it too. And you're like, can you though?
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, because I often get asked like advice from new creators, like people who want to start a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm the worst person for them to ask for that advice, because I'm like, I only started in 2011.
Yeah.
Completely different. Like the meta was to make like 3-minute videos, like, whereas that's now Reels and TikTok. Yeah. And so my advice for like getting started on YouTube and like how I did it, irrelevant to someone starting now. All that said, I do know some stuff, but I feel like I'm not the best placed person to help out new creators. Whereas like existing creators, like, because one of the things that I've started doing more recently since stopping the sex ed stuff is like consulting and coaching with creators. But I feel like my expertise is better at like established creators who feel like they're at some sort of crossroad, like not the metrics, growth, performance kind of concerns that creators have, but they're like values, goals, work-life balance, that side of things. Yeah.
Nice.
I'm like, give me the existential problems.
This podcast is called Aha Moments. I've got 3 questions for you, which I ask everyone. So the first question is, can you think of an aha moment in a product or service that you've made or worked on? And how did you get to that aha moment, or how do you drive your customers or clients to that point?
Ooh. Okay, so maybe like Patreon, I think, because that's like the one place that I really drive people to. So I don't like, other than my free content, I don't have like a product that I'm selling, I guess. And so
what's it like when people first join? What kind of comments do people get when they first join your Patreon? Are they like, oh wow, I didn't realize there's loads more stuff happening here than over there, and I should have joined here earlier?
Yeah, I remember like one of the big like aha moments that I had with it was when I was pregnant and prepping for taking some maternity leave. And so I obviously like mentioned the Patreon, because I was like, I'm not going to be making any content that like, so money is tricky when you're like a freelancer and a content creator, and I want to take a bit of a break, but Patreon's there and I'll still be like active in the Discord server. And that's like the best place to help kind of almost fund my maternity leave. And loads of people joined to kind of like help support the maternity. Yeah. And then lots of people stayed and a lot of the comments I've got was like, there's definitely like a handful of people on my Patreon who are like, oh yeah, I joined to support Hannah's maternity leave, but then I stayed for the community.
Wow.
Because they all like talk to each other and stuff. But yeah, I think like the constant aha moment that I have in my business and with the creator industry at large is if you have a good connection with your audience, like your audience wants to help. Like I've also been through like illness and disability and like had to take time off for health reasons. And the people come forward. The people are like, all right, yeah, let me sign up to your Patreon to help you out during this time. I've had creator friends who've been really struggling financially. And instead of doing that silently, have made a video going, I can't do this anymore. Like, this is the situation. Next thing you know, their Patreon has like increased threefold. And now they're more successful than ever and able to continue
doing it.
Working on
their
stuff. So it's just, don't ask, don't get, I guess is the the lesson. But also just have faith that people aren't necessarily looking for a value exchange when it comes to like fan-funded membership things. Most people aren't signing up for like, oh, I want to get this specific thing.
Yeah.
I want this exclusive content or access or whatever it is. And like me as a consumer and a fan of people, I sign up to people's patrons and I'm not there for the extra content necessarily.
Honestly,
it's like, I just like keep doing it.
This is it. I've signed up so many patrons and like had a kind of an audit of them a few weeks ago. I was thinking, yeah, but do I actually listen to any of the things that they do on Patreon? Because up until recently, at least, it was quite a bit of a pain in the ass to like listen to extra content that people put on the Patreon. So I never got around to it, but I was always like happy supporting it. And in one case, like with Empire Magazine, based on the film Empire Magazine, they've got a podcast. I know the guys really well. I love what they do. And I subscribe to the magazine, even though I rarely read it. And I'm thinking, should I cancel it? But I'm like, well, they're doing stuff that really helps me out. I talk about film and TV all the time with people.
Yeah.
I listen to the podcast all the time and sometimes on their show. You know, a subscription of like £35 a year. It adds so much value to my life. It's gonna stay, even though they're getting paid and wages from it. I'm like, this is fine. This is for Chris and Helen and James and all the guys over there.
I think that's the attitude of most people when they make the decision to support a creator. There might be like a specific perk and a specific thing that initially gets them through the door.
Yeah.
But then, you know, if you've got a good community there and you've got a good ethos of like, this is why this exists and this is why I need it kind of thing, then a lot of people stay just to like help.
Love it. Second question, can you think of an aha moment, a product or service that you love? And how did you find it? How did you get into it?
Yeah, so I want to do a big shout out to ZigZag Books, audiobooks. So it's ZigZag with an X, like XIGX.
Oh, okay. Like, yeah. When people said that they're called Xander with an X, for example.
Yes. Yeah. And so, yeah, it's an audiobook app, and I am an avid audiobook listener. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like how I read most of my books, as on the childcare run and doing the household chores and just listening. But I found out about ZigZag through a friend of mine who is a lot more clued into like sustainability and ethics world.
Right.
And that's something that I care about, but just don't have capacity to like research. And so I'm like, help me out, friend. And I wanted to divest away from Amazon.
Yeah.
And Audible is owned by Amazon. But the thing that really got me hooked into ZigZag is their pricing system. So with Audible and like other like audiobooks things, it's like a subscription, like $7.99 a month, and that gets you a credit and then you spend it, whatever.
Yeah.
With ZigZag, you're not paying a subscription, you're like actually buying individual audiobooks. But the more you buy, the cheaper they get.
Oh,
so it starts out at $7.99. So it starts out exactly the same price. But then once I think it's like in sections, and I think it resets after a year, I think. And I think I'm getting up to my year, but I'm already in the cheapest now. So it's
how much is the cheapest?
$3.99. So I'm now like buying all my audiobooks for $3.99, and I'm like, I fucking won. But it's because I consume a lot. So it's like a no-brainer for me on multiple levels. I'm like, it's cheaper for me, and also I'm like supporting a more like a small business that is like more ethical and sustainable than like supporting like an Amazon-owned business. And my audiobooks are cheaper.
Honestly, I love it. And I mean, Spotify started doing audiobooks, and I'm like, I don't really want to.
Oh, I know. And it's because I already pay for Spotify.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh God, it's
It's whole minefield.
There's too many things, and they all are trying to do the same thing, and it's very confusing.
I've never heard of ZigZag before.
Would recommend.
I've never heard it before. I love it because I was on Audible. You kind of feel tied in because I paid whatever 70 for a month for a year. Sometimes I'll get all the books. Sometimes I wouldn't get any. So I like the idea of buying when you actually want it, and for it to be the same baseline price as what is Audible.
I still get trapped because I will admit the book that I am currently listening to was only available on Audible.
Right.
And I was like, but I just really wanted to listen to it. And so, but then I need to remember to cancel that membership because I always get trapped in the like, oh shit. And then I have another credit and I'm like, well, I might as well spend this. Then I'm like, no, you could get a $3.99.
Final question.
So I'm not perfect, but yeah.
Final aha moment question. Do you have any aha moments or personal aha moments or life hacks that you'd like to share with the listeners?
I do. It's so mundane and ridiculous, but I'm someone who gets quite dry lips. I'm addicted to lip balm, like chapstick, Vaseline, all of that. And so my aha is I just bought multiples, and I have one in every room. So,
do you have a car in London?
One, no.
So if you had a car,
if I did, then I would also have a lip balm in the car. But I've got one here at my desk, bedside table. I also often sleep in my toddler's room, or even if I'm just playing in there. So there is a
lip balm
Vaseline in. There's a Vaseline in his room. There's one by the sofa, and there's one in my handbag.
You can't be too far from the thing that you need to sustain you. That's basically what you're saying.
Because I don't want to be having to travel between rooms to get my lip balm.
No, I get it. Look,
very important.
These things like small, you can put it somewhere easy to handle. But if you don't have it, it really like puts you out in a way, doesn't it? So you like
completely.
So I just need to not have to think about where it is.
My husband does take the piss out of me in terms of like my dependence.
I went too deep into chewing gum. I just started eating at the moment I'm not eating sugar, so sometimes I eat some like kind of sweet treat. So my wife's car, my car. I used to have one here on the desk, but I was just like, no, I'll just be eating chewing all the time. So there's multiple places in the house where I've got chewing gum stashed. So I get exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Hannah, where's the best place for people to contact you if you do want them to get in contact with you? Patreon, sure.
If they want to.
Support Hannah on Patreon, guys.
Oh my God. That's like the end of my funnel, but sure, we can go straight there. I would say, so obviously I make content on YouTube, which is the More Hannah YouTube channel. And then my Instagram is at Hannah Witton. Those are like the main places that I'm like actively posting stuff. Yeah. If you actually want to like get in touch and message me, like probably LinkedIn.
Okay.
If I'm honest.
And LinkedIn is, I'll put all the links to these in the show notes.
Yeah. I think I'm just Hannah Witton on LinkedIn as well.
Perfect.
And I'm trying to get better at using it, so this is the perfect excuse for me.
Well, if you have any questions about how LinkedIn's working, then give me a shout, because I'm learning like every single day. So.
Oh my God, yes, I'm gonna quiz you. I did a video last year that was me hiring a TikTok expert, and then like I documented the process of me like doing their advice and like posting content and all of that stuff. Ironically, this video of me hiring a TikTok expert and all of that was an hour and a half long.
Wow.
For feature film. But on my ideas board is hiring a LinkedIn expert.
My ideas board is insane. It's on my head. It's on Evernote. It's on a whiteboard. I've got too many ideas. This is my main problem. Too many ideas. Hannah, thanks so much. It's been ace catching up with you. And whenever you're back in Manchester, we need to catch up. And I'm still in touch with a lot of the capoeira peoples. We met just before Christmas. So if you're ever around, we're in Chorlton. So
okay, I'll message you after. But I'm coming to Manchester like next week.
Cheers, Hannah, and cheers everyone for joining me on this episode. It was a pleasure to talk to Hannah for the first time in depth for must be at least a decade. Hopefully, it won't take that long again before we connect, and hopefully in real life, not just virtually like this. If you do want to get in contact with Hannah, all of the details are in the show notes. LinkedIn, you heard about her trying to like big up her LinkedIn account there as well. So get in contact with her there. I'll link to her website and all the other places you can get in contact with her. Go and check out her Patreon and support her there. It really helps. It really helps all creators. Patreon's amazing. Whilst you're here, whilst I still have you, please like, subscribe, comment, if you're on YouTube, leave a review. If you're on all the audio platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Pocket Casts, and share with your friends. Share with one friend, share with one colleague, share with one member of your family. That'd be really helpful. It really, really helps to get this podcast out there and to get people knowing more about it, which will be absolutely amazing. That's it for me, I think. Yes. Thank you very much, guys, and I'll see you in the next episode.